In a small, warm town nestled between quiet hills and winding roads stood a modest white church with a tall steeple and a choir that sang like angels. It was in this church, Grace Community Chapel, that five young girls first met. There was Amara, the fiery one, whose laugh could fill a room. Then came Essie, quiet and thoughtful, always with a journal in hand. Ruth had a tender heart and a voice like silk, often leading the children's choir. Lena was the dreamer, always painting images of heaven and home. And finally, there was Joy, the glue that held them together. A girl with faith like a mountain and a smile that never faded. They met in Sunday school, sharing crayons and hymns, and as they grew older, they formed a bond no one could break. Week after week, they sang in the choir, organized youth events, and prayed for one another like sisters. They came from different homes, some broken, some whole, but in each other, they found a family. Their friendship was sealed in prayers whispered during all night services, tears shared at altar calls, and promises carved into the old oak tree behind the chapel. We'll stick together, Amara had declared one evening, their hands stacked together. Through life, through everything. And they did. After high school, the five girls, now young women, all got accepted into the same university in the city, a blessing they never took for granted. It was a dream come true. Though nervous about leaving home, they were excited to begin this new chapter together. They rented a small apartment near campus. It was cramped, filled with mismatched furniture, posters of Bible verses, and late night gospel music. But to them, it was perfect. At university, life came fast. New faces, endless lectures, and the subtle pressure to fit in. Still, they stuck to their roots, attending fellowship meetings, fasting before exams, and keeping Sunday sacred. They were known as the church girls on campus, and for a while, that title suited them just fine. But things started to shift in the second year. Amara was the first to change. Her fiery nature was drawn to the city's lights and sounds. She started going out with classmates, dressing differently, talking about freedom. Ruth, too, got swept up in campus activities and met a boy who made her skip Wednesday prayers. Joy tried to hold them together. She reminded them of their vows, their faith, their purpose. Some listened, some didn't. We're not kids anymore, Amara said one evening. God understands we're growing. Essie stayed mostly quiet, caught between loyalty and concern. Lena still painted, but her canvases had grown darker, more chaotic. The pressure of school, relationships, and expectations weighed on them all. The once immovable bond now had cracks. Still, they tried. Bible studies turned into dinner chats. Morning devotions became rare. Slowly, they were drifting. It was a Friday night. Exams were over, and the city buzzed with energy. Amara suggested a party. Just this once, she said. We need to unwind. We've earned it. Joy hesitated. Let's just go out to eat, somewhere quiet. But the others, tired, stressed, and curious, sided with Amara. Come on, Joy, Ruth urged. It's just one night. Joy agreed, reluctantly. We leave by 11, she said. They dressed up, laughed like old times, and took a cab to a house party near campus. Music pounded through the walls. The air was thick with smoke, perfume, and the thrill of youth. For a while, they danced, laughed, and forgot who they used to be. But as the night wore on, something shifted. The crowd got rowdier. Drinks were passed around. Someone spiked the punch. Essie, who rarely drank, felt dizzy. Lena couldn't find her phone. Ruth was missing. Amara was arguing with a boy outside. Joy, ever vigilant, tried to gather everyone. But before she could, a scream tore through the night. A car, speeding down the street, swerved to avoid a fight near the gate. In its path was Ruth, trying to cross the road to get away from the noise. Time froze. The impact was sudden, violent, final. By the time the ambulance came, Ruth was gone. The next days were a blur of tears, police reports, and shattered hearts. The group that once danced in unison now sat in silence, unable to face one another. Joy blamed herself. I should have stopped us. Amara disappeared for weeks. Lena dropped out of classes. Essie went home and didn't speak for days. Ruth's funeral was held at Grace Chapel. Her parents wailed. The choir sang with broken voices. The girls, now just 4, sat in the front row, drowning in regret. We were supposed to protect each other, Joy whispered. It took time, months, prayers, counseling. Amara returned, different, quieter. She started volunteering at church again. Lena painted a portrait of Ruth, peaceful, with wings. It hung in their apartment. Essie started a blog, writing about grief, healing, and faith. Joy never stopped praying. She led them back to the altar, one by one. Together, they began to rebuild, not just their lives, but their faith. Years passed. They graduated. Each took a different path: missions, medicine, art, ministry. But once a year, on the anniversary of Ruth's passing, they returned to the oak tree behind Grace Chapel. There, they prayed, sang Ruth's favorite hymn, and reminded each other, we are the ties that bind, through life, through everything. And in that quiet space between memory and hope, they found peace.